always nice when you have several things coming off your garden if you can figure out how to put them together into one dish, and that's what I've done today. We've got green beans and beets and onions, all of which you probably have the opportunity to get if you grew them. If not, you can do something like I did. These are from the farmer's market here in Stillwater, who were kind enough to donate them for our process today. I'm going to start with the green beans. Now, when you have green beans, you want to make sure that they're nice and fresh. Green beans are more delicate than most of us think. We think we can kind of throw them around, but you do need to take a little bit of care with them. I need 1 cup of beans, so I'm going to use half a cup of 2 kinds. I've got the yellow snap or the wax beans and some green, and I'm going to blanch them. These are going to go in a salad, so we're going to cook them for somewhere between 3 to 5 minutes. It depends on how well done you like your green beans. If you like them less, you can do them less. They're going to just cook in the boiling water. There's no salt or anything. It's truly a blanch, and we're going to cook them for that short time just to soften them up a little bit, take away some of the raw flavor from them. And at that point, we're going to submerge them in ice water or mix ice in with them after we've dumped them into the colander, because we want to stop the cooking as quick as we can. We also want to chill them down because it is a salad, and we don't want them, in this case, to wilt the greens. The next part that's going on this deals with the beets, which are another great vegetable. Now, I really like beets because when you pick beets, you actually get 2 vegetables. You get the beet, which most of us think of, and you also get the greens, which are definitely edible too. Now, these have had a little bit of hail damage, but you want to look for the leaves that are younger, that are in good condition. Some of the bigger ones that are a little bit droopier and wilted, you don't want anymore. So the step on this is to make sure that, first of all, it depends a little bit about how you're going to cook them, but as you bring them in from the garden, the first thing you want to do is remove the leafy part from the root. The reason for that is that if you leave the roots in place, it's going to pull the moisture and the quality from the beet itself, so that later on you're going to end up with something that's flabby. So we want to leave about at least 1 inch of stem on, and you can go ahead and leave the root on at this time as well. Put them in a plastic bag, and they'll keep for you for at least a week. Make sure you knock off as much dirt as you can before you get too far. But don't store them this way, but store the leaves and the bulbs separately, or the roots separately, and then make sure that you eat the leaves first, because they're only going to keep a few days. Now, you have a couple of options on how you're going to cook these. Once you get them down to this stage, you could put them in a pot of water, cover them with water, maybe a little bit of salt, bring them to a boil. You could steam them and just cook them until they're tender. I did it a little bit differently. I like that method well enough, but I baked them because I wanted you get less of them, less moisture absorbed, and you get less of a watery taste. You also don't have as much trouble with the fading, with the color going out into the cooking water, because you don't have any. So all you need to do is wrap a beet that's down to this stage. You can even cut off more of the stem part at this point, because it's not going to have color leaching into a water. You can cut off more of the root point. You don't have to, you can. And then wrap them well in foil. You can wrap them individually. You can wrap several in one pouch. Wrap them up real tight, put them in the oven about 400, and they will, depending on the size of the beet and the age of the beet, be ready to use in about 45 minutes. They'll be done 45 minutes to an hour, depending on, again, the size and the age. Younger, fresher beets in particular, will cook faster than will older beets. So that's going to make a bit of a difference. Now, I always use a precaution when I do beets. I love the color. It's a beautiful color. I just don't want to wear it for the next couple of weeks. So as you can see, I've already got some on my hand here. Once they're baked, at that point, then you start to get ready to do the peeling process. Now, it should be fairly easy once you've trimmed them down and got them baked. You simply pull off the top and you just kind of rub them, and that skin is going to come right off. It couldn't be any easier. If you try to do it before they're cooked, you're going to spend a lot of time and a lot of effort, and you're going to lose a lot of color during the cooking process. So that's the easiest way to go about this. All right, we'll leave that one for another time, and let's go ahead and start working on our dressing. Now, I do have some green beans that are already done for us, so we've made a little bit of a do-ahead. One of the nice things about doing salads is that you have the opportunity in many cases to do components at different times. So you could cook the beets one day and have them ready to go. You can cook the green beans one day and have them ready to go. So that when the meal comes, you don't have to do as much work. And that's the same situation for the dressing that we're going to do. Now I've got a half a cup of cooked beets that I've just chunked up because I'm going to put them in the blender and everything else is going to happen to them in there. I've also got, let me see, a 1.5 teaspoons of cider vinegar, and you could change that flavor if you wanted to. 1.5 teaspoons of a Dijon mustard, and I think this might be easier to do if you just have a squirt bottle and kind of guess at it. You could switch that one up too. If you have a honey mustard or some other flavor, that's just fine. And then we want to make sure that we have enough liquid in a blender anytime you use it to enable it to work well. So I've added 2 tablespoons of beef broth. Now you could use a vegetable broth if you want to turn this into a vegetable dish. We're going to put the lid on and I'm going to turn it on and we're going to completely pulverize what we've got in there thus far. Take the lid off, and because we want to make sure that everything is nice and smooth, we're going to scrape it down. Oh, that smells terrific. And get everything down towards the bottom all together. And then I'm going to put this back on, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to start it with the lid in place because I don't want any risk. As you saw, it did tend to splatter up, and I don't want any risk that that's going to go anywhere in the house. I want it to stay inside the blender. So put the lid on and leave it in place like that, and turn it on lower this time. Then take the hole out of here once you're sure it's not going to splatter up. And we're going to add 2 more tablespoons of beet broth. And then, let me double check and make sure, a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. Now you could use a different flavor. At this point we're making an emulsion, so you don't want to add it real fast. You want to add it a little bit more slowly. And let that get mixed in well. As you can see, it's still splattering out a bit on me. So I'm going to put the lid on. Let's turn that off and take a look and see what we got. Now at this point you might decide that it's too thick, in which case you can add a little bit more vegetable broth until it gets to the consistency you want. You can also decide that if you're doing this ahead of time, put it in the refrigerator. It'll keep a good 24 hours for you, probably longer than that, but you might have to put it back in the blender at that point in time to get that emulsion to come back together. Now what you might find, however, after it's refrigerated for a while is that it gets a little bit too thick and you're not happy with it, so you may want to thin it down at that point with a little bit more vegetable broth, or you could even use a little bit more olive oil or vinegar if you thought the flavor wasn't quite where you wanted it to be. Do taste it before you put it on the salad. Make sure that it's got the flavor, that it's got enough of everything that you want to have in there, and that the flavors are appropriate. You may want to add a little bit of salt or pepper. It's all up to you on this point. It's personal preference. So let's go ahead and turn this into a salad now. We've got maybe 1/4 to 1/2 cup of onions. Now onions are lots of different varieties, so choose one that you would like on a sandwich, not something that's real sharp. Red onions are nice. Some of the sweeter onions are great. The red ones add a little bit of color, but since we've already got the beets, I didn't think we needed quite as much color on this time. Now this gives us a little bit more color as well, since we've used both yellow and green beans. And then one of the beets, I've got about another 1/2 cup of beets, or a medium beet, somewhere in that area. I cut it more as julienne style as opposed to what we did the first time with the chunks, because we're going to want to have it on here, see if you can spread it out a little bit. And then we're not going to use all of the dressing that we made. We're going to use, probably 6 tablespoons for this whole salad. And you're just going to drizzle that over the top. It makes this beautiful color. Now the thing I like about this one, and I often would serve this on individual plates and let people stir that up themselves, as opposed to tossing the salad, because I like all the color on top. You can do it either way. We'll give it a little bit of a toss here, and you can see how the color really spreads through there and makes this whole dish a mix of pinks and greens and yellows and whites, and it's just a really nice dish to start a meal with. I hope you'll give this one a try. It's green beans and green salad with beet dressing. For Oklahoma Gardening, I'm Barbara Brown.